What if the largest, most complex ecosystem on Earth was never meant for human eyes, and we are only beginning to realize how little of our own planet we truly understand? The ocean is often spoken of as a surface, a horizon, a mirror for the sky, a route to be crossed. But this is a profound misunderstanding. The sea does not begin at the shoreline, nor does it end where light fades. It begins downward. More than 95% of Earth's habitable volume exists in darkness, beneath pressures that would crush steel and temperatures that approach freezing. This is not an empty void. By volume, it is the largest living space on the planet, dwarfing every forest, desert, city, and mountain range combined. If all human civilization, every road, every building, every memory, were compressed into physical space, it would barely mark the upper skin of this world. Everything below is something else entirely. This is the ocean's interior. Human intuition fails in the deep because it was never shaped for a world like this. Our minds evolved to understand distance through movement, through horizons we can see and terrain we can cross within a lifetime. We measure scale by walking, by climbing, by the passing of days and seasons. The deep ocean offers none of these anchors. If Mount Everest were turned upside down and lowered into the Mariana Trench, its summit would still hang more than 2 kilometers above the bottom. Not because the trench is unusually deep, but because our sense of depth is unusually small. Down here, the abyss does not simply feel vast. It dissolves the very idea of vastness. Distance is no longer counted in miles or kilometers, but in pressure that increases with every meter, in time that stretches beyond human relevance, and in isolation so complete that rescue, escape, or even orientation lose meaning. Water presses inward from all directions with hundreds of times the force we experience on land, collapsing any space that resists it. There is no wind to signal movement, no weather to mark change, no seasons to create rhythm. What moves does so slowly, governed by inertia and density rather than urgency. What falls drifts downward for weeks, sometimes months, long after its origin has vanished. And yet, despite this silence, despite this scale that defies the mind, the deep is not empty. It is alive, operating on rules that do not care whether we can comprehend them or not. Light disappears quickly in water, absorbed and scattered until it becomes meaningless. Sound does the opposite. It travels, bends, reflects, and endures. In the deep ocean, sound is not a background detail. It is structure itself. It is how distance is measured, how motion is detected, how life becomes aware of other life in a world without edges, without landmarks, without walls. Water carries sound more than 4 times faster than air because its molecules are packed closely enough to pass vibration with extraordinary efficiency. Every fracture of ice, every grain of sediment shifting on the seafloor, every muscle contracting within a living body sends ripples outward, layering the ocean with information. Sperm whales release clicks so powerful they are among the loudest biological sounds ever recorded, pulses capable of stunning prey and mapping space far beyond sight. Shrimp snap their claws with explosive force. Fish produce low hums and pulses. Even coral reefs crackle with constant microscopic activity. The ocean is never silent. It is continuously speaking to itself. In this way, the sea is not a void at all. It is closer to a cathedral whose walls cannot be seen, whose ceiling cannot be reached, and whose vast organ is played by countless living instruments, each contributing its note to a soundscape that fills the darkness completely. Far below the reach of sunlight, Between depths of 3,000 and 6,000 meters, the seafloor relaxes into a vast and almost featureless expanse known as the abyssal plain. It stretches beneath every ocean basin, covering more than half of Earth's surface, making it not only the largest landscape on the planet, but also its least familiar. There is no light here to mark the passing of day. Currents are faint and unhurried. Change unfolds on geological timescales rather than human ones. From far above, a constant but nearly invisible snowfall drifts downward. Fragments of plankton shells, dust from distant continents, the soft remains of countless lives from the sunlit surface world. This slow descent is known as marine snow. In some regions, these particles settle at a rate of just 1 millimeter every 1,000 years, compressing time into layers so thin they are almost unimaginable. Each stratum records a chapter of ocean history, preserving shifts in climate, productivity, and extinction long after the events themselves have faded. The abyssal plain is not barren. It is patient. And on this quiet, ancient carpet, life waits, adapted not to abundance, but to time itself. Scarcity is the defining force of the abyss. There is no surplus here, no margin for waste, only systems refined to extract value from the smallest traces of energy. Many animals have abandoned swimming altogether, not because they cannot move, but because movement itself is costly. Instead, they live at the interface between sediment and water, where the slow rain of organic material finally comes to rest. Sea cucumbers move across the sea floor with unhurried purpose, ingesting vast quantities of mud and silt. Within their bodies, bacteria and digestive enzymes strip away what little nutrition remains, returning oxygenated and reworked sediment back to the plain. In this way, they function much like earthworms on land, quietly maintaining the structure and chemistry of their environment. Alongside them roam giant isopods, distant relatives of pill bugs, grown to proportions rarely seen outside the deep. They patrol the plains as opportunistic scavengers, capable of enduring long periods without food, then feeding voraciously when a rare carcass arrives. Every fragment of organic matter is claimed. Every molecule is reused. Life in the abyss does not reward speed or strength. It rewards endurance, restraint, and patience shaped over immense spans of time. Occasionally, the abyss receives something it could never produce on its own. A gift from the world above. A tree torn from a riverbank and carried out to sea. A wooden vessel claimed by storms. The slow, final descent of a whale that once crossed entire oceans. When these bodies reach the deep sea floor, they become sudden concentrations of energy in a landscape defined by scarcity. These events are known as woodfalls and whale falls, and their arrival transforms emptiness into opportunity. Specialized organisms respond quickly, drawn by chemical signals long before the structure itself is visible. Scavengers arrive first, stripping away soft tissue. Bacteria follow, breaking down complex compounds. Later still come worms, mollusks, and crustaceans adapted to exploit what remains. This sequence unfolds through a process called ecological succession, with each community preparing the environment for the next. A single whale carcass can sustain an entire ecosystem for decades, sometimes centuries, supporting life long after its original form has vanished. In the abyss, death does not mark an end. It becomes structure, shelter, and nourishment. It becomes architecture, shaping the lives of countless organisms that will never know the surface world from which it fell. In 2022, more than a century after it vanished beneath the ice, the wreck of Ernest Shackleton's ship Endurance was found resting on the sea floor of the Southern Ocean. Against all expectations, its wooden hull remained strikingly intact, preserved in a condition rarely seen in deep water. In most parts of the world's oceans, wood is a temporary material. Specialized clams, bacteria, and fungi rapidly consume it, reducing ships and trees alike to scattered metal fittings and sediment within decades. But the Southern Ocean follows a different logic. Antarctica has no native trees, and for millions of years, there has been no steady supply of wood reaching its surrounding seas. As a result, the animals that evolved here were never pressured to develop the ability to digest it. The ecological machinery required to erase wood simply does not exist. The preservation of endurance is not the product of cold alone. It is the result of absence. And yet, the wreck is far from lifeless. Filter feeders anchor themselves to its beams, drawing nourishment from passing currents. Sea stars spread across its surfaces, and delicate organisms claim edges and shadows. The ship becomes a scaffold, a hard island in a soft world, suspended between history and geology. In the deep, even when decay is delayed, life still arrives. Along the fractures where Earth's tectonic plates pull apart, seawater sinks deep into the crust and is transformed. Under immense pressure, it heats beyond 400 degrees Celsius, dissolving metals and minerals from the rock before erupting back into the ocean. When this superheated fluid meets near-freezing seawater, the dissolved minerals crystallize instantly, building towering chimneys of stone and metal. These structures, known as black smokers, release dense plumes into the darkness, creating landscapes that seem more geological than biological. Yet here, life flourishes. This is an ecosystem powered not by sunlight, but by chemistry. Microbial communities harvest energy from hydrogen sulfide, methane, and iron through a process called chemosynthesis, converting chemical reactions into living matter. They form the foundation of a food web entirely independent of the sun above. Giant tube worms rise meters tall from the vent fields without mouths or digestive systems of their own. Instead, their bodies house dense populations of symbiotic bacteria that feed them from within. Nearby, Pompeii worms endure temperatures that would kill most known organisms, protected by microbial layers they actively cultivate along their backs. These creatures are not anomalies, clinging to the edge of survival. They are thriving participants in a stable system. Their existence demonstrates a profound truth. Life does not require a gentle world, only energy, time, and the ability to adapt. Above the sea floor stretches the pelagic realm, a vast three-dimensional space without shelter, without landmarks, and without refuge. Here, survival depends not on strength or speed, but on the ability to remain unseen. In this open void, bodies evolve to disappear. Many animals become transparent, allowing light to pass through them as though nothing were there. Others turn reflective silver, mirroring the faint light around them, or deep blood red, a color that vanishes quickly as water filters out longer wavelengths. Some absorb light almost completely, erasing their silhouette against the darkness. The telescope octopus drifts through this space with near weightlessness, its gelatinous body barely interrupting the water around it. Its tubular eyes scan for the faintest glimmers of bioluminescence, detecting motion in 3 dimensions where depth has no floor or ceiling. Nearby, jellyfish grow to enormous size, their slow-moving bells and trailing arms becoming temporary shelters for smaller organisms that travel within their folds. In a place without walls or solid ground, bodies themselves become structure. Form replaces architecture. For these drifting creatures, the abyssal plain below is not a home, but a waypoint. A place to feed, to rest, or to reproduce before releasing themselves once more into the endless void that defines their world. We are taught to imagine the ocean as a surface, a blue expanse that begins at the shore and ends at the horizon. But this image is an illusion. The ocean is not a skin stretched across the planet. It is an interior, a vast hollow world beneath our feet, layered with pressure, time, sound, and forms of life that exist far beyond the scale of human experience. Most of Earth was never shaped with us in mind. Our bodies, our senses, our technologies are poorly suited to this realm, and yet it thrives without regard for our presence or absence. The deep ocean does not ask to be seen. It does not perform, explain itself, or wait for understanding. It simply exists, vast, patient, and continuously alive. If this journey into the unseen has slowed your breath, if it has shifted how you think about space, time, or your place on this planet, then its purpose has already been fulfilled. Wonder does not require mastery, only attention. Subscribe to Sunken Realms Deep for quiet, immersive explorations into the hidden interiors of Earth, where science, deep time, and awe converge far below the surface. The surface was never the whole story.